Alright, what is up guys? It's 11 a.m. an early morning, right? Got my tea here, right? Gonna sip on some tea. Important video today, okay? I suggest you watch towards the end because I found some incredibly juicy stuff while I was scrolling through the internet, doing some extra due diligence on Beeline, right? If you guys haven't watched the new Nick Liuzza's podcast that I linked on my StatTwits, you guys should probably go and watch it, this one. And I'll put in the description. It's pretty informative. It's a bit preliminary, but nonetheless, if you're a new holder, I think it's really informative and it gives you kind of the outline of what Beeline is trying to accomplish here. But what this video is about is I'm going to go into a more deep dive with the information currently available on the internet on what the Beeline equity is about. Again, this is all speculation with the information available. Everything I say in this video is not financial advice. And in addition, none of what I say in this video may be true, right? Things can change relatively quickly, and when the Beeline product does get released, things can be entirely different, right? So I'll just get into it now. This is the website TYTL token that is going to be used to facilitate the Beeline equity product, right? So you guys can, I'll put all the links in the description. You guys can go through it and read how this works. I've already looked through most of this, and it looks pretty legit and pretty robust, in my opinion. Most of the links here doesn't work, and the copyright is 2024, so it looks like this token has been in the works for about a year, 2 years, about 2 years, because we're going to 2026. So it looks like this has been an industry, a startup, or something that has been in the works for a while. Nick does own 50% of this company, and when you do a Google search on TYTL, the title of the meta tag is in Chinese characters. So I would assume there are a good amount of foreign interest that is held within this company, and Nick does own 50%. So that is something to keep in mind. And so I have a bit of some notes here that I'm gonna just quickly run through because there is so much things here that it's hard for me to keep track and to be able to articulate how bullish that I feel on this company. Not financial advice again. As I've been strenuously yelling on top of my lungs, you're not bullish enough, okay? And you're gonna find out why after I go through this blob of notes, right? So we have Beeline, right? What we're holding, what we're back holding, essentially. Well, technically, we're not back holding. Let's be honest, okay? Everybody who's bought since the reverse merger, they're up at least 30%, right? We're essentially hovering at all-time highs since the reverse merger, right? So everybody is in the green right now. We're feeling the bullish sentiment. Are you feeling it? Are you feeling it with me? Because I'm feeling it, okay? We've rallied almost 200% at this point, and I think we're gonna continue to go up, right? Look at it. It's only 83 million market cap, and you're gonna realize how bullish. You're not bullish enough with this, with what I'm about to show you, okay? Anyways, let's get back to topic. I'm getting a bit excited here, so deep breath, sip some of my tea, right? That's some good tea. Anyway, so what does Beeline do, right? Beeline does the origination, I don't think they do origination because that's more geared towards like individual home buyers, right? So they process the title, the deed, and all of that legal content, right? They're going to do it in a compliant manner, and they're going to do it in a legal manner, right? They're the best in the industry, as they claim right now, because they beat their competitors by about 4x with all the investment in AI and their more esoteric way of doing things. Like instead of having to wait for one specific set of people or persons to finish their work, and then it goes to legal, and then it goes to someone else, and then it goes to someone else, they do it all in parallel. So that speeds up and expedite the process by a lot, right? So how does this help Beeline, right? We have to remember Beeline does not own RealCode, which is the TYTL entity here, right? Beeline does not own it, but Nick, our CEO, he does own 50% of RealCode. Okay, now I've read on StatTwits and some other parts of the internet that Beeline doesn't have exposure to this, and it's a bad thing. I actually believe the contrary. I think that the fact that Beeline doesn't have exposure to this other side of a more murky market is actually a good thing, right? Because Beeline just providing the title service and all the legal service, right? And RealCode does the rest. So Beeline isn't exposed to the risk, the regulation risk that's associated with this new esoteric crypto product that's going to be coming into the market, right? So Beeline's just doing the servicing here, right? So I think that's a smart decision by Nick. And you have to keep in mind, a liquidity provider like RealCode, it's not hard to spin up, right? All you need is money. If you have the money, you can just spin up a liquidity provider, right? And that's the easy part, right? And if there's more regulatory clarity that comes out within the next few years as this becomes more mainstream, I'm sure Beeline's gonna spin up their own liquidity provider in order to improve profit or increase profit, or they're gonna buy RealCode since it's going to be extremely established by that point. But for now, we want to keep Beeline, the entity, safe as possible. All right, we're gonna offer out our service. Our best service, which is title. They came from Linear Title, right? Nick comes from Linear Title. They have all the talents there that's able to accomplish what other agencies cannot accomplish. They can do it faster. They have all the investment in AI and everything, which will further expedite and accelerate their market share when more liquidity providers does pop up. But for now, as a preliminary test, right, we're gonna use RealCode, right, because it's one of the first movers in the market right now. So we'll see what happens, but I'm extremely bullish, right? So yeah, as I stated before, we don't really have to worry that Beeline doesn't have a stake in liquidity providers, because what's important here isn't the liquidity provider. The profit isn't in here, right? Sure, the appreciation can grow exponentially, but your money is essentially stuck, right? Beeline doesn't want to foot the bill, right? And also have to risk themselves in the regulatory environment. They're just doing what has been done since the inception of this nation, which is title work, right? Paperwork and legal work, right? So Beeline is kept safe here. And the hard part here to associate crypto with real world asset, which is home, is you have to do it correctly, right? Nobody's going to trust a crypto that promises to establish real world asset that's pegged to a real estate if you don't do it correctly, right? So Beeline does it correctly. They do it, with paperwork. They have a title and everything, and it's assigned to, let's say in this case, to RealCode, the company, right? So this company owns the real estate, facilitated by Beeline, which does all the paperwork, recorded by the government. You could reverse search it. You could search it up, and you can see, hey, RealCode owns this residential real estate. They own 49%, and RealCode, they have a contract with their investors, who are the holders of their token, that they own. They have ownership to a portion of whatever real estate that's in RealCode's portfolio, right? So let's just get that out of the way. So that's just how this system works. RealCode solicits international investors that has a bunch of money, people, let's say from Russia, China, India, right? These countries have capital controls. The capital isn't really free in a sense if you think about it, right? That's why so many people wants to invest in U.S. assets, right? That's why 90% of transactions settles in United States dollars, right? That's why there's so many foreigners buying up apartments in Manhattan and New York City, right? Just to park their money there, even though they don't live in the apartment, even though the prices of the apartment may go down at a consistent rate, right? They're still parking the money there because the capital isn't controlled as much in the U.S. compared to China. In fact, I don't think the U.S. control your capital that much, right? They may tax you at an outrageous rate, especially in New York City, but still, capital in the United States is worth far more than capital anywhere else in the world, right? For example, if you want to collateralize a $1 million home in the United States versus a $5 million home in China, and you go to a bank, the bank's going to pick the United States one because we have such an egalitarian legal institution that's backing private ownership and private property. Anyways, let's get back to topic, right? So, to summarize what I just said, United States asset is the best asset. Everybody wants a piece of it, right? And how does RealCode solve that problem to essentially democratize access to United States real estate market, right? Well, they gave fractional shares to anyone who wants to buy, and trust me, there are demand from, especially in the crypto world. A lot of people has already started to slowly transfer their money from their native nations into cryptocurrency to get away from capital control, from like the government capital control, such as Russia and China, right? So there's a lot of liquidity that's looking to be parked into real world asset, and if the real world asset is United States residential real estate, which has been going up consistently since the inception of this nation, then that is one of the best assets ever, right? So RealCode, I think it will have demand. They will have enough liquidity, and more of these liquidity providers are going to pop up if this does work, right? And if they do pop up, what happens, right? Now you have a ton of businesses, right? And they're trying to compete with each other to get as much volume as possible, right? But you can't really get volume at scale when the title work and the legal work requires so many people to participate in order to get something done, right? Like the current average time to get something done, according to Beeline on their website, is about 24 days, right? Beeline does it 4x faster. What does that mean? That means that Beeline will be a service provider to businesses. So now they have a B2B model, right? That serves businesses who are B2C models, right? So these liquidity providers will start looking for customers. They will look for home sellers that want to cash out, and they will look for buyers that want to buy the fractional share, which means that they no longer have to waste money on acquiring leads and customers, which means that it's huge margin for Beeline, right? So as long as Beeline can scale, and Nick has claimed that they've been investing in their technology and their AI in order for moments like these where they can have an increase in volume and still be able to complete these mortgage contracts and stuff. Yeah. Bit of a cut. So Beeline, the servicer in the industry for all new liquidity providers who wants to get in on this. So if Beeline is able to capture the first mover advantage and create a buzz in the industry, they will be the household name for these type of liquidity providers to go towards, right? So yeah, that's basically it. All right, now let's go to the fun part, right? All right, let's go to the fun part, right? The part where we calculate how much Beeline might be worth. Okay, so let's just say Figure, right? Figure, which is this company, right? They do something similar to Beeline. They do HELOC, DSR, DSCR loans, cash out refinance, and crypto back loan. They are a fintech company, so these 1, 2, 3, they're not making that much money off of these, right? And crypto back loan, they might make more money off of this, but then again, they are a fintech company. I don't know their direction, what direction they're trying to go, but I believe that in the future they might start doing bank accounts, cards. They could do anything they want, right? But as far as I can tell, they're not doing what Beeline is doing, right? So I don't think Beeline has that much competition, especially in public, as a public company. There's not many public companies that are doing what Beeline is doing, right? So Figure in the first half of 2025, they've made roughly $30 million in net profit, right? Net revenue is $30 million, okay? And that justified a $10 billion market cap by Wall Street, which is pretty insane. But if Wall Street says this is justified, then who am I, right? Who am I to judge? But Beeline is only $80 million market cap, right? They're debt free. They're going towards operational profitability by 2026. And let's just do a quick estimate, okay? Let's say they make $7,000 per transaction, which is a conservative estimate, right? And there's 1,000 applications, right? And we multiply by 3 because every quarter, I'm subtracting 1 month from a quarter just to have some leeway. So we multiply it by 3. Again, all of this is conservative, right? And we multiply it by 2 quarters, right? That's $42 million that they're making. Okay, now we can subtract the fees and legal stuff and all of the expenses that's associated per transaction. We can probably get to $30 million, right? And that's not adding in the fact that Nick also states that he is licensing out the AI, the Magic Blocks AI and Blink QC, and their original B2C business model is also generating profits, right? So if you look at the 30 million, this is just from the Beeline equity product, right? And as this scales, right, there's going to be more liquidity providers that's going to pop up, and Beeline, with their apparatus that they've already created, it's going to test. We're going to see, right, how much volume can Beeline handle, right? Because right now, if these liquidity providers, if they think Beeline is slow and they try to, start their own mortgage company, they're gonna lose a lot of money. Almost every public company that's doing what Beeline is doing, they're burning cash, right? Beeline knows this, right? It's not a lucrative business to be in, especially you have to ramp up volume to like a huge amount just to squeeze some profits, right? Just look at figure, right? $10 billion market cap, and they only made 30 million for the first half, and the volume, right? They're probably doing around $600 million in volume just for 30 million, and this is an entirely different ball game right now if we're thinking about it correctly, right? So it would make financial sense for these liquidity providers if they do want to come on the scene and start competing with Realco, because the market is huge, right? The international market is even bigger, right? So if they want to compete with Realco in the United States real estate market, residential real estate market, they're gonna have to get a servicer that's fast, that's quick, right, and that's responsive, and they're at the with a talented team, right, and with a proven track record, right? And I think Beeline is the one. Figure they're not investing that much into it. They're going in all sorts of directions. They're fintech. They should do that, to increase their revenue. But I don't think they're going towards the direction of Beeline. Sure, they could, but then again, you're gonna have to invest so much in talent, and Beeline has just already invested in that since 4 years ago, as Nick has stated. So I think we're really underestimating the talents that Beeline have, right? And the investments that they've made in AI and making a streamlined process of what they do, I think it's starting to pay off, and I think it will start to pay off. Again, this is not financial advice. This is me just having a wet fantasy right now. So yeah, what else? What else is there to talk about? Yeah. So how much do you think the market cap of Beeline will be if we do have 1,000 applications a month, right? And I think 1,000 application on one of the earnings call, Nick has, I think, admitted that they've denied about 1,000 applications, right? So I think that's not far-fetched in a month, but as they're still scaling, so 1,000 a month is a good test, but again, this is all speculation, right? I think there will be demand in this. Again, Beeline is not the one that's soliciting people, right? It's going to be the liquidity provider that's going to be soliciting customers, right? And trust me, they're going to pay a premium, right? Because foreign investors, they're already paying a premium on a Manhattan penthouse on Fifth Avenue. They're going to pay a premium on residential real estate that's safe and you carry anywhere without having to worry about capital controls, right? Without having to worry about eyes being on you, just hold a crypto in your wallet. But that's Beeline's not related to that. It's still a little bit murky in the regulatory side, but I think it's perfectly legal. But we don't want the scrutiny on us at this point in time. So I think that Nick separating these two entities is a smart move. Again, I want to reiterate that being a liquidity provider is not hard. Okay, being able to scale your title operations and have a legit, provable, secure real world asset tied to a crypto, that's the hard part, and that's what Beeline is trying to solve, right? So that's just my opinion. I think this is extremely bullish, right? Just think about a 10 billion market cap with 30 million volume. 30 million in revenue, right? And the volume that it was required to do this is insane, about $600 million, right? In order just to make 30 million. And now they're going into crypto, right? Well, crypto collateralized loan, right? Which is different from what we're doing. But, they are fintech, we're going in different directions, but there are similarities that we can compare and contrast. But at the end of the day, I think, Nick has carved out a unique market opportunity, right? I think this is, it's interesting to watch, and I think it's a new industry that's being carved out right now, and I think Beeline is going to be the first one to do it at scale, right? And especially with the talents and the way Nick thinks, I think it's bullish, right? It's like investing in Elon Musk, right? If Elon Musk started a new public company with a reverse merger worth $80 million, what are you going to buy the shit out of it, right? So again, not financial advice. Why am I doing this, bro? You guys should be paying me, okay, for giving you such immaculate, I don't want to say financial advice, but I'm giving you information that is probably going to produce generational wealth for you, okay? If you don't paper hand and fumble this once in a lifetime opportunity, okay? Again, this is still risky. You could lose all your money on this, but I think the risk and reward is there, and I'll just put in X amount of money and just let it ride, right? Have a moon bag, okay? It's fun, right? Have some fun in your life, anyways. That's my rambling. I hope this was somewhat helpful. Myself, I'm bullish going into Monday. I think we still have a long amount of the way to run before the real actual announcement comes because of the speculation and the fact that people are just starting to look at Beeline holdings. What else? Yeah, that is about it, right? I just want to provide some of my thoughts and my findings, right? I want to share with you guys. Let's just see what are you guys typing up, right? Yeah, you know, there's this other competitor, right? It's called joinhorizon.com, and they're also doing like real world asset tokenization. You have to keep in mind, right? It only works if there's legal backing. If someone renegades on a contract, men with guns was going to be like, hey, no. As written here, it says XXX, right? Crypto is a very dangerous place, right? And if you buy the wrong things and there's no legal backing, you're screwed, okay? What Beeline's doing is they're doing it safely, and they're doing it in a legitimate manner with the backing of the U.S. legal system, right? That is what Beeline is doing, and that is what's bullish here, okay? So, and they're promising that they can do it at scale. Okay, nobody's investing in new mortgage agencies because it costs so much. The legal fees already eats into the margin by a significant amount. So what you have here is Nick has been just investing in Beeline's mortgage agency, right? And streamlining and making it better, right? No other mortgage agency is going to be able to compete with Beeline. Because if you look at Figure, they're already diversifying their portfolio. You know, they're probably outsourcing their mortgage agency and their grunt work and their paperwork to some other company, which they're not developing technology. They don't have millions of dollars in funding to develop AI to streamline this process. Nick and Beeline does have the apparatus and the capability and the faculty to be able to do this, to be able to invest in R&D, if you think about it. So yeah, that's just my ramble. What else? Yeah, that's about it. Happy Saturday, good morning, and good afternoon as well, because it's hitting 12 p.m. soon. So yeah, I'm extremely bullish. Let's hope we see $5 Monday. Don't at me, not financial advice. See you on the next video. Subscribe, dude. Like, you guys really need to learn how to create a YouTube account and subscribe to my channel. Okay, I'm doing this, and it's not easy. Okay, all I ask is that you like the video and subscribe, please. Okay, thank you. It's like 80 degrees and I have to dress up. Come on. Anyways, I'll see you guys whenever I want to make a new video. All right. So peace.